There we go. Okay, so wanted to talk a little bit about protein, like we were kind of just talking about. We know that is a super essential nutrient, and what that means is an essential nutrient is the building blocks, the pieces, the nutrients that our body needs that it can't create the amount that it needs. So we need to get it in from the diet. So that is an essential nutrient. That's like a protein, fats, fibers. Those are essential nutrients that we need to get from the diet. So when it comes to first, the reasons for why it's important, it's involved in so many different processes in the body, but you probably hear it talked about a lot, especially in the health and wellness field when it comes to body composition changes or weight loss or strength gains, because it's kind of like the powerhouse when it comes to both of those goals. So for our healthy, like average general population, like just want to feel good, be able to go and do all the things that you want to do, it's still a necessary essential nutrient that we have to focus on. We just don't need the same amount for it to do the job we need it to do for general healthy maintenance style living versus, like, say we're in a muscle building phase or a fat loss phase. So say we're talking about weight loss, protein is extra important during that phase for a bunch of different reasons. So one of those reasons being that when we're going through a body composition change, a fat loss phase, to do that, to go through those stores of energy that we have in our body, that means we need to be eating less that our body is needing in that moment, because it needs to go, oh shoot, there's not enough available like energy floating about that I'm getting in my day-to-day. So I need to go and kind of break down those fat stores to use that as energy. So when we're going through a process like that, that means we're not getting what our body needs. Protein is extra important because one of the things that happens is our body will go, oh shit, oh shoot, okay, we're not getting what it needs. Then maybe I'll go into my muscle and I'll use my muscle mass as energy. Because you'll notice that if you ever see people who have been through, like a traumatic event, that they're starved for a long period of time, like they're really frail, they've lost muscle mass, because when you don't get enough energy, the body will use whatever it needs to. So muscle mass is one of those things that it'll go after. And the reason we want to really focus on getting enough protein during a phase like this is because often when we say we want to go through a body composition phase, it's not just about seeing a smaller number on the scale, which often will kind of get a little hyper focused on that, but really what we're looking for is feeling, lean and toned, comfortable in our clothes, reduce our bloating, things like that. And so to get that toned look, what we need to do is have muscle underneath those tissues, because that's what kind of spreads the skin out, gives that toned look. And then also reduce our body fat percentage. So we need to make sure we have enough protein in our diet so that we're preserving the lean muscle mass as much as we can. When you're in a prolonged calorie deficit, there will be a little bit of muscle mass loss, just because you're not giving your poor body like what it needs. So it will do what it has to do. But we want to try to preserve as much as possible. So we really ramp up our protein. The other reason why it's really helpful in phases like that is it's really satiating as a food. Like, it's very hard if somebody sat down and gave you like 4 chicken breasts. Even if you had the calorie equivalent in a bowl of chips, I promise it'll be way easier to hit that amount of calories in a bowl of chips versus protein. You would just get like so full, you'd get sick of eating. It'd be really hard to push through. So it's really satiating. So you're not hungry all the time, because you can be in a calorie deficit. Say you're in a calorie deficit with not enough protein. The risks of that is that you're going to be hungry all the time because the other foods aren't really filling, and you might be losing a lot more muscle mass. So yes, you might lose weight, but that means you're also losing muscle mass. So that means your metabolism is coming down. So to maintain that weight loss, you'll have to eat less and less calories. Versus if you prioritize your protein so you can preserve your lean muscle mass, you'll be fuller. So it's easier to stick with the deficit for a longer amount of time, because you're not crazy hungry all the time. And when you're in your maintenance mode after, you'll be able to eat more and maintain that body composition because you have enough muscle mass, which means your metabolism is lifted. So it helps preserve our lean muscle mass. It's really filling and satiating. Also, when it comes to a fat loss phase, it has a high thermic effect, which means when we're eating it, the process of breaking it down uses up a lot more energy, burns a lot more calories. So say we have 100 calories of chicken and 100 calories of chips. Because it takes the body energy to break down the chicken, we'll only absorb 60 of those 100 calories. But with the chips, because the fiber's gone, there's not many nutrients, it's already processed, we absorb like 99 out of those 100 calories. So on the outside, they're both 100 calories, but really the impact on your body is one is 60% of the calories and one is 99% of the calories. So when it comes to a calorie deficit, it's a really helpful tool for that. Same with if you're building muscle. Your muscle's built up of protein, so you need to have enough protein around so the body will put it and build your muscles bigger. When it comes to the how much, a really good rule of thumb. So for just general population healthy, kind of maintaining where you're at, a good rule of thumb is 0.5 grams per pound of body weight if you're in like your healthy body composition levels. The RDA, like what is recommended, is lower than that, but the RDAs, like the recommended daily allowances, or they're all about what level you need to not have a deficiency, like a disease or an imbalance in your body. Like it's the bare minimum for your body to just function. But we're not over here wanting to just bare minimum function, like we want to survive and thrive. We want to feel good and be able to be strong and do all the things we want to do. So a good rule of thumb for that is 0.5 grams per pound of lean body mass. And if we're, trying to do some resistance training, trying to build some muscle mass, trying to maybe shed some body fat, so we want to keep that protein higher to get all the benefits of it, then a recommended piece is like 0.7 grams to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. So that's the kind of math side of things as general guidelines and recommendations for protein intake. But I like to kind of simplify it and in my brain just go, okay, most of the time, I'm just going to try to get a source of food that has a good quality amount of protein at each meal. So depending on what season you're in and what goals you have, say you're in your just like, I'm just like living my healthy life, no big like body composition goals or strength training things, you have a bit more liberty around that because you have a lower target to still feel good and do what you need to do. So you go, okay, well, most of the time I'm going to prioritize protein plants that have good amounts of protein in it. But if you're in a period of like, okay, I'm in a deficit, I'm doing a fat loss phase, that's when you want to be extra intentional and extra paying attention to getting in a higher amount of protein because it'll make the journey easier. It'll help preserve your lean muscle mass and things like that. So when you're in that phase of making some changes, trying to get 1 to 2 servings of a high protein food. And I'm going to share some resources, like you guys have some already in your general guides and resources stuff, but I have a few extra ones to share, especially, Allison, you were talking about how can I kind of bump it up a little bit? It's like, okay, I don't want to be like mainlining meat all the time and it feeling heavy and stuff like that. So there's also a document with like plant-based sources of protein where you can sprinkle them in at each meal to just round it up. Like you get an extra 5 here, you throw some edamame beans and black beans, you get an extra 10 there. You put some hemp seeds and quinoa and pumpkin seeds and sprinkle some pistachios in a stir fry or on a salad, and then boom, you can now just dial it up a little bit more. So I will share those resources for that to make it a little bit easier. But I find that a really good focus, like looking at your meals, go, okay, is the foundation a source of protein, either the plant-based protein or animal-based protein? And then plants themselves also like we know with plant-based sources of protein, they also have protein. Often we separate foods into these categories of protein, carbs, and fats because it makes it easier for us to kind of wrap our head around it and sort it out. But really, foods are a mix of all of those macronutrients, but we put them in different categories because they are higher density, higher ratio of a specific one. So we can be like, okay, well, that's kind of got more of that, so we'll put it in fat section. But something like avocado, it has protein, carbs, and fat in it, but we'll put it in the fat section because it has a higher ratio. But know that when you're prioritizing a variety of different sources of plants, you're naturally going to be increasing your protein intake because they all have kind of protein in it. The reason why we don't put lots of plants in like a higher protein category is because there's this breakdown of proteins. They break down into these amino acids, and there's like 9 essential amino acids. One's essential, meaning we have to get it from the diet. And say something like animal protein, because the animals are doing the hard work of like eating the plants for us and processing it all. They have all of those 9 essential amino acids already packaged in their muscle protein. So when we eat it, boom, check, easy, we get all 9. You can still get all 9 from plants. You just have to get a variety of different plants. So this one that has 3 essential nutrients and this one has the 5 and 2, and then you get all 9. But something like mixing lentils and rice or beans and rice together, you get all your 9. So those are little hacks too of like pairing certain things together to make sure you're getting all the things your body needs. But that's just a little, I wanted to keep it quick and concise and just one little kind of topic, but just to bring to attention and remind ourselves the kind of the why behind we're making these choices and we're paying a bit of extra attention. And it may feel a little annoying when you're in the middle of like a specific change in process, being like, geez, I'm so tired of like thinking about protein all the time, because to make it happen, I have to plan ahead and then see if I'm getting enough and all this jazz. But I just want to also let you know that like it won't feel like that forever. Because we're in a different season, we need to do things a little bit differently, but it doesn't have to be like that always. When we're in our maintenance mode, you'll already be in the habit of like most of the time getting high dense protein options in there. And so without having to think too hard, because during your season of like, okay, I'm going to like, that's my priority right now, you've created a habit of knowing how to get it in. So when you're in maintenance mode, it'll just feel kind of second nature, and you won't need to have as much to still feel as good and do what you need to do. Because it may feel like a bit of a push during a fat loss phase to like get 0.7 to 1.2, grams each day. But then when you're in maintenance mode, 0.5, that feels pretty easy. Most of my meals, I have something on there and we're good to go. So just know when you're kind of in the thick of it, it'll take a lot more intention and a lot more work and effort, but it will get easier as it goes, and you won't need the same amount because we'll have, when we're in a maintenance mode, that means our calories will be brought up. And when we have more carbs and fats and just more calories in general, those are protein sparing nutrients by mean of it's sparing our protein, our body needing to go and use our lean muscle mass as energy because it can just use the carbs and fat. So when you're in a phase where you're not in a calorie deficit and you're eating the amount your body needs, you don't need a crazy amount of protein because the body can use the carbs and fat as energy, and it's not going to go and attack your muscles to use it. So just keep that in mind. If you're in the thick of it, it'll feel like a lot more. Sometimes you might just do it because you got to do it, but know that it won't feel like that forever. But I wonder if I can share my screen. Let's see. Oh, there you go. You guys can see my whole messy. All right. You guys can see that, eh? I got a lot of folders. So these are kind of protein sources that have a higher ratio of protein. So if you're trying to make things easy on you, like, yes, you could eat plant-based sources of food. You just have to eat more and a bigger variety. So then that leaves less room for foods that don't have the nutrients in it that we need. But the ones that give you your most bang for your buck are these ones here in the green category. And I also want to share this one. I'll post these for you so you guys don't have to worry, but these are the ones that are like plant-based. So it'll show you like, okay, out of your carbs, these are the ones that are a bit higher. So if you wanted to dial things up a little bit, throw some peanut butter in your oatmeal with pumpkin seeds, things like that. Throw some pistachios on your yogurt. Try out if you're always having like pasta as your carb, it's like, oh, okay, try some quinoa or buckwheat or barley. Oh, well, barley's not the super highest, but still they have a little bit in there. You can try tofu and edamame, things like that, beans, peas, all that jazz. This will all kind of round it up a little bit. And if you are getting stuff like pasta or bread, always like peek at the label and look for the one that has higher protein, higher fiber. And so it's a win-win. It's just as easy. It's just grabbing something in the same shelf, but just spending 2 extra seconds to kind of compare the labels. And that will be helpful. And then we also have this in our sources. But when it comes to like, okay, how much? We've already given some tactical kind of numbers if you were tracking in that way, or you can use hand portion sizes. And for protein, let's go for like, a palm size amount of protein, 1 to 2 per meal. So that could be like a chicken breast or turkey or pork chop or whatever. It's like the size of the palm of your hand, a deck of cards. Things that aren't shaped like that, you can just kind of, it's like 3/4 of a cup of Greek yogurt or cottage cheese, or like 3 eggs, things like that. So those are some of the things I'll share to you guys. But after kind of hearing a little bit of tidbits, is there any nuggets that you're able to take away from that, or any questions to get some clarity?
Well, I like the idea of mixing two things like beans and rice. That's sounds good and easy to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So one of the things too to keep in mind when we are using these sources that are higher in carbohydrates as our kind of protein source, and we're prioritizing it that way, we totally can. And the trade-off and benefit to that is, okay, knowing that the plant-based sources of protein are also higher in carbohydrates, that just means we'll have to make some other adjustments during our day to still keep ourselves in the calorie deficit. So that may mean just a little less flexibility for those treat foods, flavor foods, ones that don't have a lot of nutrients in it, but are more for fun and flavor. That might be our trade-off. Be like, you know what, I'm tired of meat, so I'm going to have this stuff, and I'll just manage my snacking later at night, or I'll shift what my next meal is a little bit so that my body is getting everything it needs in a way that's enjoyable to you, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, love it. And food is really medicine. Like when we eat these things, keep reconnecting that like everything you see and feel and can conceptualize about your body is created by food. Like every cell in your body was first created by the energy and building blocks from your parents, then from your mother, and from their mother's mothers in your DNA. And then when you are brought out into the world, food is what keeps you growing and keeps your heart beating and your brain thinking and your lungs breathing. So get real excited about food in that way. And sometimes it might feel like, oh, I don't want to do this or plan or prep. But if we can keep reconnecting with that importance of it and how valuable it is, like we'll go to work when we don't feel like it because we really value being able to support our family, being able to have healthcare and a roof over our heads. And even on the days we're frustrated and overwhelmed and don't feel like it, we find that will to go because it's such a deep-seated, like it has value and importance to us. And if we can start looking at food and taking care of our body in that same way, that's how we still push through when it's hard and when it's annoying and when it's tiring. We don't want to do it because most days are going to feel like that. It's not rainbows and butterflies all the time. And sometimes it's really annoying to go to the store and it feels a little, cumbersome, but just keep reminding yourself, it's like, that is your duty and job to you. And just like you show up for your employers and your family and your finances and all that, we want to show up for ourselves in the same way. So even when it's tough, just keep going. Any other kind of questions around protein, or do you think those resources will kind of give a good idea of what things you can add in to piece it together? And does that help having a little bit of a principle of being like, okay, 1 to 2 palm sizes or a quarter of my plate be from the green category of proteins, and then try to pick from the plants that are in the higher protein range as well. And then supplements are helpful too, like having protein powder in your day can really help during this period where you're trying to like go above and beyond for a little bit. You guys feel prepped to be able to kind of, hit those targets and give it a go?
Yep.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. Okay. Well, I won't steal too much of your time for the night, but it's a topic that's always talked about on social media and brought up. And I often, encourage you guys to, hit your protein and things like that. So I wanted to make sure everyone had a good understanding of what that looks like and why it's important. And yeah, hopefully keep moving forward with it and keep feeling better every day. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks,
You too.
Franny.
Yeah, take care. Thanks for coming on. Night, night.
Bye.